Hi guys, it's Michelle again with Deception Bytes, and I really wasn't going to do another video tonight, but I've run across some more news that I think is very important, and I'm going to run the video, but first I want to explain the video. This really has a lot to do with the QAnon post, because a lot of what Q has said is, encapsulated here. So, let me get started. The House Judiciary Committee oversight hearing, that's when this is taking place. And a Congressman, James Daniel Jordan, born February 17, 1964, is the U.S. Representative for Ohio's 4th Congressional District. He's served since 2007. He is a member of the Republican Party. The district is located in the north-central portion of the state and includes Lima, Tiffin, and El Raya? I may not be pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, I just love this congressman. He's like my favorite person now after seeing this. It's just so awesome. And I am going to play it for you, but I want to explain what you're going to be seeing first. Okay, the congressman suggests that Peter Strzok may have used anti-Trump dossier material to authorize surveillance of Trump campaign members. Now, let me explain what happened here first, okay? The Democratic National Convention, aka Clinton campaign, which is really one and the same, they paid a law firm, okay? They paid a law firm who then paid Fusion GPS. Now, what is Fusion GPS? Well, if you remember, that was in the Q post, and Fusion GPS is commercial research and strategic intelligence firm based in Washington, D.C. The company provides open source investigations and provides research and strategic advice for businesses, law firms, and investors, as well as for political inquiries such as opposition research. So if you're going to be running for a position and you want to find some dirt on your opposition, that's where you would go. You would go to Fusion GPS and you would pay them, and they would research and dig all this dirt up on your opposition, and you could use that in your campaign. So the Clinton campaign paid a law firm who then paid Fusion GPS, who then turned around and paid Christopher Steele. Now, who's Christopher Steele? Well, Christopher Steele is a British intelligence officer. Steele worked for the Secret Intelligence Service and is a founding director of Orbis Business Intelligence, a London-based private intelligence firm. He authored a controversial dossier which claims Russia collected a pile of compromising information on U.S. President Donald Trump. Okay, so Hillary Clinton the Clinton campaign pays a law firm. They pay Fusion GPS, who is used to doing this type of thing, digging up dirt on opposition. And then they pay Christopher Steele, who then pays the Russians. And he pays the Russians to put together this dossier, and it has all kinds of fake news, National Enquirer garbage, and it's been reported that this dossier was all dressed up by the FBI. So the Russians put this together, all this fake news and all this crap that's really just National Enquirer type stuff on Trump. Okay, they put that together and they give it to the FBI. Okay, the FBI dresses it all up to make it look like it's actual intelligence, which it isn't, but they dress it all up and do whatever they need to do to make it seem like this is viable intelligence. And then they take it to FISA. Now, what's FISA? Well, FISA is the United States Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, and it's a U.S. federal court established and authorized under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. So it's the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And what it does is it oversees requests for surveillance warrants against foreign spies inside the United States by federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies. So if the federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies felt a certain person was a spy working on behalf of a foreign government, they could take an application to FISA to be able to spy on them. And I think that that is a good thing if it's used properly. It's a very good thing. You know, if there's somebody here that, you know, they think that is up to no good and has nefarious plans for the U.S., it's good to be able to spy on those people. However, this is not a case like that, because what the FBI did is they took this just basically dirt that the Russians, you know, fake news and all that they dig up. They take that, they dress it all up to make it look official. Then they take it to FISA and present it as a legitimate intelligence document, which it is not. It's anything but. And that becomes the basis for granting a warrant to spy on Americans associated with the Trump campaign. Now, think of this. Think of how huge this is, and think of how damaging this is to the deep state. You've got Hillary Clinton, the Democratic National Convention, paying a law firm who pays GPS, who pays Christopher Steele, a foreign intelligence agent. He's a British intelligence officer. And he pays the Russians. The Russians put together this information, fake information. The FBI takes that information, they dress it all up, and they make it appear as legitimate. And then they take that to FISA, which becomes the basis for granting a warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. So you've really got one campaign, the Clinton campaign, spying on the Trump campaign because of false documentation. That's huge. It is freaking huge. So then this James Jordan, this congressman, says, well, the easiest way to clear this up is if you want to, and he's talking to Ray, the FBI director. He says the easiest way to clear this up is if you tell us what was in the dossier that you took to FISA. Well, that's pretty straightforward, right? Just tell us what was in the dossier. We'll clear this all up. But Ray, the FBI director, says, well, we can't discuss FISA applications. Then this guy says, I think that Peter Strzok, former deputy head of counterintelligence at the FBI, the guy who ran the Clinton investigation, did all the interviews, the guy who was running the Russian investigation, I think he is the guy who took the application to the FISA, like to get a FISA warrant. So that's what you have. Now I'm going to take you out now that I've explained this, and I don't know if I need to, let's just see here. That might be something that we need to look at. If my computer will cooperate. Yeah. House committee grills FBI director. Did Trump Russia dossier back a FISA warrant? Yes. Yes, it did. FBI Director Christopher Wray has declined to tell the House Judiciary Committee if he was prohibited from sharing documents that would show whether the notorious Steele dossier was used to obtain a FISA warrant to spy on the Trump campaign, and it was. Wray was appearing before the House Judiciary Committee Thursday after President Donald Trump's recent tweet that the FBI's reputation is in tatters. Representative Jim Jordan, who I was just talking about from Ohio, asked Wray about the FBI's possible use of the Trump-Russia dossier, also known as the Steele dossier, named after its author, ex-British spy Christopher Steele. It was a document paid for by the Democratic National Convention, or the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton campaign to be used as opposition research against Trump in 2016. It contained allegations that Trump colluded with the Russian government in the 2016 U.S. presidential election and engaged in lewd acts. The veracity of the salacious claims in the dossier were further undetermined by the revelation that Steele paid Russian sources for information pointing to collusion. Jordan also referred to Peter Strzok, an FBI agent and former deputy head of counterintelligence who led the investigation into Clinton's use of private emails, and reportedly recommended that the former FBI director James Comey describe Clinton's actions as extremely careless rather than grossly negligent, a term that implies felony charges under the U.S. law. Yeah, that's the other thing that this Strzok did, is he took Comey's description that described Clinton's actions in the email investigation as extremely careless rather than grossly negligent. See, James Comey had described it as grossly negligent, and that term implied felony charges under U.S. law. But this Strzok guy takes it and he changes it to extremely careless, which does not have the same implications. So, it was revealed this week that Strzok was dismissed this summer from Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe into alleged collaboration between Trump and Russia for sending anti-Trump text messages. I doubt that was the reason. Jordan alleged that Strzok used the Steele dossier to obtain a FISA warrant for spying on members of the Trump team. My hunch is that it has something to do with the dossier, Jordan said. Did Peter Strzok help produce and present the application to the FISA court to secure a warrant to spy on Americans associated with the Trump campaign? Wray refused to answer, saying, "I'm not prepared to discuss anything about a FISA process in this setting." Jordan wouldn't let Wray off the hook. "We're not talking about what happened in the court. We're talking about what the FBI took to the court," he said. The application. Was Peter Strzok involved in taking that to the court? Wray remains obstinate. "I'm not going to discuss anything to do with the FISA court applications," he responded. Jordan then made his case that the FISA warrant was obtained based on false information contained in the Steele dossier, calling it fake news, National Enquirer garbage. I think Peter Strzok, head of counterintelligence at the FBI, Peter Strzok, the guy who ran the FBI's Clinton investigation, did all the interviews. Peter Strzok, the guy who was running the Russia investigation at the FBI. Peter Strzok, Mr. Super Agent at the FBI. I think he is the guy that took the application to the FISA court. And if this happened, if you have the FBI working with the Democrats' campaign to take opposition research, dress it all up, and turn it into an intelligence document to take it to the FISA court so they can spy on another campaign, if that happened, that is as wrong as it can get. That's as wrong as it gets. You could clear it all up. We sent you a letter 2 days ago. Just release the application. Tell us what was in it. Tell us if I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. I think that is exactly what happened. And people who did that need to be held accountable. Yes, they do. Now, let's go here and look at the actual
I certainly know that he was working on the special counsel's investigation. Whether or not he would be characterized as a key player on that investigation, that's really not for me to say.
And the same Peter Strzok that we learned this past weekend was removed from the special counsel team because he exchanged text messages with a colleague at the FBI that displayed a pro-Clinton bias. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Talk about the same guy. Okay.
Yes.
Well, here's what I'm not getting. Peter Strzok is selected to be on Mueller's team after all this history, put on Mueller's team, and then he's removed for some pro-Clinton text messages. I mean, there are all kinds of people on Mueller's team who are pro-Clinton. There's been all kinds of stories. PolitiFact reported 96% of the top lawyers' contributions went to Clinton or Obama. But Peter Strzok, the guy who ran the Clinton investigation, interviewed Mills, Abedin, interviewed Secretary Clinton, changed gross negligence a crime to the term extreme carelessness, who ran the Russian investigation, who interviewed Mike Flynn, gets put on Mueller's team, and then he gets kicked off for a text message that's anti-Trump. If he kicked everybody off Mueller's team who was anti-Trump, I don't think there'd be anybody left. So there's got to be something more here. It can't just be some text messages that show a pro-Clinton, anti-Trump bias. There's got to be something more. And I'm trying to figure out what it is. But my hunch is it has something to do with the dossier. Director, did Peter Strzok help produce and present the application to the FISA court to secure a warrant to spy on Americans associated with the Trump campaign?
Congressman, I'm not prepared to discuss anything about a FISA process in this setting.
We're not talking about what happened in the court. We're talking about what the FBI took to the court, the application. Did Peter Strzok, was he involved in taking that to the court?
I'm not going to discuss in this setting anything to do with the FISA court applications.
Well, let's remember a couple things, Director. And I know you know this. We've all been made aware of this in the last few weeks. Let's remember a couple things about the dossier. The Democrat National Committee and the Clinton campaign, which we now know were one and the same, paid the law firm who paid Fusion GPS, who paid Christopher Steele, who then paid Russians, to put together a report that we call a dossier full of all kinds of fake news, National Enquirer garbage. And it's been reported that this dossier was all dressed up by the FBI, taken to the FISA court, and presented as a legitimate intelligence document, that it became the basis for granting a warrant to spy on Americans. And I'm wondering, I'm wondering if that actually took place. It sure looks like it did. And the easiest way to clear it up is for you guys to tell us what was in that application and who took it there.
Congressman, our staffs have been having extensive interaction with both intelligence committees on our interaction with the FISA court, and I think that's the appropriate setting for those questions.
Here's what I think, Director Wray. I think Peter Strzok, head of counterintelligence at the FBI, Peter Strzok, the guy who ran the Clinton investigation, did all the interviews, Peter Strzok, the guy who was running the Russian investigation at the FBI, Peter Strzok, Mr. Super Agent at the FBI, I think he's the guy who took the application to the FISA court. And if that happened, I mean, think if this happened, if you had the FBI working with a campaign, the Democrats' campaign, taking opposition research, dressing it all up and turning it into an intelligence document and taking it to the FISA court so they could spy on the other campaign, if that happened, that is as wrong as it gets. And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. You could clear it all up. You could clear it all up for all of us here, all the Congress who wants to know, and frankly, all of America who wants to know. You could clear it all up by release. We sent you a letter 2 days ago. Just release the application. Tell us what was in it. Tell us if I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. I think that's exactly what happened. And if it did, it is as wrong as it can be. And people who did that need to be held accountable.
Congressman, we will not hesitate to hold people accountable after there has been an appropriate investigation, independent and objective, by the Inspector General into the handling of the prior matter. And based on that, I will look at all available remedies, depending on what the facts are when they are found. As to the access to the dossier, that's something that is a subject of ongoing discussion between my staff and the various intelligence committees.
There's nothing prohibiting you, Director. Is there anything prohibiting you from showing this committee what was presented to the FISA court? The application you all put together at the FBI that was presented to the FISA court. Is there anything preventing you from showing us that?
The time of the gentleman has expired. The Director can respond.
I do not believe that I can legally and appropriately share a FISA court submission with this committee.
I'm talking about what the FBI put together, not what the court had, what you took there, what was the process put together, what you presented, what you took to the court.
When I sign FISA applications, which I have to do almost every day of the week, they are all covered with a classified information cover. So that's part of why we
is
would
it
not
likely
be
that
discussing
Peter
it here.
Strzok is it likely that Peter Strzok played a part in the application presented to the FISA court?
The gentleman's time has expired. However, I do want to follow up on your last response to the gentleman. This committee, the House Judiciary Committee, has primary jurisdiction over the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. Yeah. So any request for documents coming to any part of the Congress should include the House Judiciary Committee, and if it is classified in any way, shape, or form, it can be provided to us in a classified setting. But that is information that we are very much interested in,
Mr. Chairman,
very much want to receive.
Just a question to the Chairman. Yeah, I don't think there's anything prohibiting the FBI from giving us what they used to put together what was taken to the FISA court. That's what we're asking for, and there is nothing prohibiting him from doing that.
I don't think there is either. The time of the gentleman has expired, however. You care to respond to that, Director Wray?
No, I think I've covered it.
Director was...
Now, there you have it. Now, this is pretty explosive stuff because this is all stuff that Q-ANON, posting on 4chan, had talked about. So we're seeing that this is true. Sure seems that way to me anyway. I think this is pretty explosive. So anyway, I'll leave it there for now. And thank you so much for listening and supporting and liking and commenting, and really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you next time.